Number 1.
Kelly Morrissey was last seen in Lynbrook, New York on June 12, 1984. She disappeared while walking to a video parlor known as Captain Video. Kelly has left a female friend's residence at some point between 9 o'clock and 9:30 p.m. that night and was last seen walking west on Earl Avenue and Merrick Road afterwards. Kelly has not been seen or heard from since. Before she started to walk the parlor, Kelly met her friend at a gas station on Merrick Road and spoke with her. The friend said that she and Kelly were waiting for two men to show up. They waited for more than an hour before going to talk with their other friend, who was a gas station attendant, for approximately 45 minutes. The friend decided to leave Kelly, and she said she would stay behind to see if the men would show up. She headed for the parlor when they didn't. Kelly's mother was initially unconcerned when Kelly didn't return home. She assumed that Kelly went to stay with a friend due to thunderstorms that occurred that night. She reported her missing at some point afterwards. While Kelly was somewhat rebellious at the time of her disappearance and was known to experiment with drugs and alcohol, authorities do not believe she ran away. She was known to associate with men much older than she was and had sometimes missed her curfew, but her family stated she was not as rebellious as most girls her age at the time. Kelly had also laid out clothing for the next day and had left her clothing and personal belongings behind at home. She also never even picked up her last paycheck from her place of work, which was a shade and Venetian blinds packaging factory. She was meant to pick it up the next day after her disappearance. She also had an important exam which she was meant to take for her summer social studies class. Authorities believe that Kelly was murdered the night she disappeared and believe her case might be connected to the murders of two other females from the area after she disappeared. On November 10, 1984, 16-year-old Teresa Fusco disappeared after leaving her job at the local roller rink at approximately 9:45 p.m. Her body was discovered on December 5, 1984 in a wooded area of Lynbrook. She was found completely nude and was killed by ligature strangulation. Her murder remains unsolved. She was friends with Kelly at the time she disappeared. Then on March 26, 1985, 19-year-old Jacqueline Martorella disappeared from Oceanside after leaving a friend's house to go to her workplace of Burger King. Jacqueline's naked body was found on April 22, 1985. She was discovered by a local resident who was hunting for gold balls in a marshy area off a fairway of the Woodmere Country Club golf course. Authorities believe that Jacqueline was murdered elsewhere before being dumped in the marshy area. She was strangled to death, and her body was identified through dental records. Authorities have noted that the Fusco and Martorella murders are similar in both location and detail. Both women were found without any trace of their clothing and were sexually assaulted. They were also found in open areas. Kelly, Jacqueline, and Teresa were all Caucasian females who were last seen walking by themselves in the evening and dark hours. Authorities were able to recover a semen sample from the Fusco murder. In the 1990s, 3 men were charged and convicted of killing her. They served a total of 17 years in prisons before the DNA was compared to theirs and showed no match, proving that they had not killed Teresa. The 3 men were Dennis Halstead, John Restivo, and John Coggett. Coggett was the only one who confessed to killing Fusco and was retried after the original conviction was overturned. He was later acquitted by a judge. Coggett was known to Kelly. The two had dated prior to Kelly's disappearance but had broke up beforehand. She also knew Halstead and had visited his apartment with her friends previously. At the time of Kelly's disappearance, she lived with her mother, stepfather, siblings, and her step-siblings. Morrissey's biological father and she had rarely seen each other. Kelly's disappearance remains unsolved, and it's unknown if her disappearance is connected to the two murders. She is believed to be deceased by both police and her family. Her mother was last known to be living in Vermont.
Number 2.
Russell was last seen playing in the sandbox in his family's fenced backyard at their residence at Lynch's Trailer Park on River Road in Wheatfield, New York, at 12:20 p.m. on May 5, 1982. Russell's mother went inside their home to repair one of his toys. She stated she was gone for less than 5 minutes, perhaps less than 1 minute. Upon her return outside, she discovered her son was missing. The gate in the fence was still closed and was locked from the outside. Russell has never been seen again. The family's fence was 4 feet high, but one part of the fence was shorter than the rest, and the day before his disappearance, Russell had climbed over the fence and gone to play in a neighbor's yard. It's possible he climbed over the fence again the afternoon he went missing. An unidentified Caucasian male and female are wanted for questioning regarding Russell's disappearance. The couple was spotted in the area of the Russell family's home at the same time the child vanished. No one saw the couple interact with Russell, and it is not known if they are connected to his case, but investigators would like to question them as possible witnesses, if nothing more. Sketches of the unknown individuals are posted with this case summary. The female had dark brown curly hair and was in her early to mid-20s in 1982. The male had light brown hair and a mustache. He was in his late 20s to early 30s in 1982. The couple was seen riding in a white 1965 or older Corvette with a black convertible top. They were last seen in the area of Hyde Park Boulevard and Packer Road. Some officials do not believe Russell was abducted. They think it more likely that he fell into the Niagara River, which runs only about 100 yards from his home, and that his body was swept away. However, there is no evidence to support this theory, only conjecture. In 2005, a man from Texas contacted authorities and stated he believed he was Russell. The individual was adopted and stated his adoptive parents gave evasive answers when he asked about his history. He decided he may be Russell after he saw the child profiled on a missing persons website. Authorities tested the Texas man's DNA against DNA from Russell's family, but the samples did not match. Russell's case remains unsolved. Some agencies state that he disappeared from Niagara Falls, New York.
Number 3.
Petra was last seen by a relative in Highland Falls, New York on January 7, 2006. She paid her cellular phone bill and went shopping at the mall with a friend that day. Her relative reported her missing in February after not seeing her for several weeks. When questioned, Petra's husband of 4 years, William Muhammad, said he didn't know her whereabouts. He said he hadn't reported her missing because she had left him for short periods before, and he assumed she had done so again. He said she took simply her belongings and moved out and suggested she'd gone to New York City or to her native Grenada. However, Petra's identification, driver's license, passport and clothes were left behind at home. Petra was a student at the State University of New York, SUNY, Orange and Newburgh, New York at the time of her disappearance, studying for a degree in diagnostic imaging. She planned to become an X-ray technician. She also held a part-time cashier's job and was about to sign a lease for an apartment. It's uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning. Petra and William were in the process of a divorce at the time of her disappearance. Divorce court hearings were scheduled for January 11 and January 25, but Petra and William both missed them, and the divorce case was dismissed as a result. The couple also missed family court hearings after Petra's disappearance. The family court was investigating allegations that William abused their son. The police were called to the Muhammad's home once in response to a domestic dispute, but no arrests were made. Petra told her classmates that William had threatened her life. 4 months prior to her disappearance, she sought an order of protection from him. She told a judge her husband had pushed and shoved her, hit her in the face, threatened to kill her, locked her and their child out of the house, and disabled the phone to keep her from calling for help. The order was granted, prohibiting William from harassing Petra. Authorities suspected foul play from early on in the investigation. The Muhammads have a young son together and lived in a home owned by William's parents in the 30 block of Schneider Avenue. Police obtained warrants to search the family's home and camper, car and pickup truck. When they searched the property they found no signs of foul play, but they did find a doll with a noose around its neck, and the family photos had Petra's face cut out of them. William has been uncooperative in the investigation into Petra's disappearance, and authorities believe he may have valuable information he's not sharing. He has not been identified as a suspect in his wife's case, however. Since Petra's disappearance, there's been no activity on her cellular phone or social security number, and there's no evidence that she left the country after 2006. She was raised by various relatives in Grenada. She moved to Trinidad at age 14, then moved to the United States at age 24 and married William, whom she'd met 2 years earlier. His former name is William Jackson. He changed his surname after converting to Islam. Petra's loved ones do not believe she would have willingly abandoned her son. They think she met with foul play and is deceased. Her case remains unsolved.
Number 4.
Robin was scheduled to meet her boyfriend, Matt Esposito, for dinner in their hometown of Carmel, New York on April 9, 1995. She was last seen at approximately 7:30 p.m., walking in the ShopRite Plaza Shopping Center, alternatively called the Carmel Center, or the Nichols Plaza Shopping Center, on Route 52. Robin never arrived at the restaurant and has never been heard from again. The shopping center is less than 1 mile from her residence. Her mother's red Oldsmobile, which she had borrowed for her trip to the shopping center, was located near the Burger King restaurant in the mall's parking lot shortly afterwards. Her keys, wallet, purse and checkbook were discovered in a marshy, grassy area behind the center several days later. Investigators don't believe Robin ran away from home. Less than 2 weeks before she disappeared, she bought candy and presents for her younger siblings for Easter, but disappeared before the holiday. She dropped out of high school prior to her disappearance to take a job at the ShopRite supermarket, but had decided to return to school and planned to eventually enroll in college and become a journalist. Esposito was questioned regarding Robin's case and cleared as a possible suspect early in the investigation. Authorities announced that Howard J. Gombert Jr. was a suspect in Robin's disappearance after his arrest on sexual assault and child endangerment charges in March 2000. He was taken into custody after sexually assaulting an 8-year-old girl, as well as his own girlfriend, and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. When the police arrested him in 2000, they found Robin's underwear hidden in a suitcase in his girlfriend's house. They were able to get DNA from the underwear and match it to Robin. Gombert had no explanation for how it got there. He had previously resided in Carmel and was employed at the laundromat in the shopping center where Robin disappeared, and he knew her. He stated he had spoken to Robin the day she disappeared and asked her for advice about his girlfriend, and they talked for a few minutes. In the days after she went missing, Gombert attempted suicide and had to be hospitalized. He has never been charged in connection with her disappearance. He has a prior criminal record and had been charged with first-degree rape in 1991, but the charge was dismissed when the 13-year-old alleged victim recanted her story shortly after his arrest. Robin liked to wear black clothing in 1995. She also enjoyed writing and listening to rock music. Her disappearance remains unsolved. Foul play is suspected in her case.
Number 5.
Nash resided in the Pelham Bay area of the New York City borough of the Bronx in 2000. He lived in a house that he inherited for $20,000 and back taxes. Nash is a retired New York City Transit Authority employee and spent his days playing the lottery. He phoned his sister on April 8, 2000, and said that 2 men arrived uninvited at his home earlier in the day. Nash said that the individuals ordered him to leave the property for unspecified reasons. Nash was last seen at approximately 2:30 p.m. on April 10 on Paulding Avenue in the Bronx. A fire broke out inside the basement of Nash's residence during the day. Authorities determined that it was arson. Someone poured a flammable substance in the basement and lit a match. No human remains were discovered in the ashes. $600 was withdrawn from Nash's account at Chase Manhattan Bank on the day of his disappearance. His orange Volkswagen Rabbit was parked near his residence. Nash's wallet was inside his home, along with bags of lottery tickets. His family members told authorities that Nash maintained daily contact with loved ones. Nash's relatives believe that he was murdered by the men who visited his home 2 days prior to his disappearance. His sister stated that she thought the men killed her brother in an effort to take over his house. No arrests have been made in connection with Nash's case, but foul play is suspected.
Number 6.
Nugent was at her birthday party at the Rolling Green Estates Apartments in Syracuse, New York on February 6, 2007. She left between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Her boyfriend, James Guilford, stated she went to their residence in the 200 block of Genesee Park Drive afterwards and left for work at 5 a.m. She was employed with Express Personnel Services, a temp agency, at Syracuse Stamping. Nugent never arrived at work and has never been heard from again. Her snow-covered vehicle was found abandoned in the parking lot of an apartment complex at East Fayette and Crowley Streets on February 9. It was towed to a police crime laboratory for analysis. The car had apparently been in the parking lot for several days. The location is a few blocks from Nugent's home. Guilford and Nugent have 3 young children together. A photograph of Guilford is posted with this case summary. He reported Nugent as a missing person 2 days after she was last seen. That same day, he took the children and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where his mother lives. Authorities became suspicious of him because of the abrupt move. In late March 2007, about 6 weeks after Nugent vanished, Guilford returned to Syracuse for a family court hearing. He was then arrested and charged with second-degree murder in Nugent's disappearance. Investigators stated they found a large amount of blood on a mattress in the master bedroom of Nugent's home, along with signs that someone had attempted to clean it up. There was blood on the walls and ceiling, which had been painted over. Blood was also found on a hammer Guilford took to Georgia with him. DNA testing proved the blood was Nugent's. Guilford led investigators to the Hilltop apartment complex in the 1800 block of East Fayette Street and said he had disposed of Nugent's remains in a dumpster there. Authorities believe he beat her to death inside their home. At his 2008 trial, he testified in his own defense and asserted his innocence, but he was convicted of murder. Guilford appealed his conviction on the grounds that his confession should not have been admissible at trial because he interrogated for 49 hours straight with little food and no sleep. He got a new trial but was convicted again in January 2014 and was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. There has been no activity on Nugent's cellular phone since she went missing. Her mother stated it is uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning and especially without her children. Her employers described Nugent as a reliable worker. She had been working for the temp agency since September 2006 and had never been late. Foul play is suspected in her case due to the circumstances involved.
Number 7.
Olsen was last seen at approximately 5:30 p.m. on June 24, 2000, at her family's residence on Fletcher Farm Road in Franklin, New York. Her husband went to the garage after dinner. When he returned home sometime between 6 o'clock and 6:30 p.m., Olsen was gone. She has never been heard from again. Olsen's family members told authorities that she always took her dog, Katie, for walks in her neighborhood. Katie was discovered inside the residence after Olsen's disappearance. Her loved ones believe that Olsen may have vanished after retrieving the mail or visiting a neighbor, as she never brought Katie along for short excursions. Authorities believe Olsen may have attempted to return to her previous residence in Wethersfield, Connecticut. Her daughter said that Olsen's first great-grandchild was born prior to her disappearance. Olsen was anxious to see the infant and her daughter planned to bring the baby to Olsen's New York residence in early July 2000. It is possible that Olsen attempted to travel to her grandchild's Connecticut home to see the newborn, but she never arrived. Authorities also speculated that she may have traveled to the Adirondack region of New York for the 4th of July celebrations, as many of her neighbors frequented the area at the time. Olsen was never spotted during the festivities. Her case remains unsolved.